I was a poor orphan girl washing other people's dishes, but one lost wallet changed my entire life. This is a deeply emotional love story about poor college student Taylor and wealthy businessman Alex. A story about love, destiny, kindness, honesty, and feelings stronger than money or social status. My name is Taylor. I was an orphan living in a dorm room, counting every dollar, spending my evenings washing endless piles of dirty dishes in a restaurant kitchen. One cold night, I found a wallet filled with money, and had no idea that returning it would bring someone into my life who would change everything forever. Alex was rich, successful, and came from a world completely different from mine. I truly believe people like him could never fall in love with girls like me. But a tiny Italian pizzeria, our first gentle kiss, warm nights on a rooftop under the stars, and real love proved something important to me. True love never asks how much money you have. This romantic story is about hope, kindness, humanity, and how one honest decision can completely change a person's life forever.
Love Stories Max. Welcome to my channel. Enjoy watching, friends.
A poor orphan returned a rich man's wallet. 1 year later, she became his wife. My name is Taylor, and my entire life fit into 2 thrift store bags, a tiny dorm room, and the constant fear that tomorrow would be even harder. I don't remember my parents' faces. At the orphanage, they told me they had died when I was very little. Other kids cried at night because nobody came to take them home. But me, I cried quietly. So quietly that no one could hear me. Because I learned very early that if you showed weakness, life hit you even harder. At the orphanage, they taught us to be grateful even for the smallest piece of warmth. That's where I learned to say thank you, even when I was hurting. They taught me to share my last piece of bread. They taught me never to take what belonged to someone else, even when I had nothing of my own. Maybe that's why I still believed in kindness. Even though the world had never given me a reason to. I was studying accounting in college. During the day, classes, numbers, notes, endless spreadsheets. At night, a restaurant across town where I washed piles of dirty dishes until my hands turned red from the hot water and chemicals. A lot of nights I fell asleep right on top of my textbooks. I never had enough money. I bought the cheapest pasta, discounted cereal, and plain white bread. Sometimes I let myself buy apples, only if they were marked down. Every piece of clothing I owned was second-hand. My winter jacket was 2 sizes too big, but it was warm, and that mattered more than looking pretty. In the dorms, girls laughed while talking about new phones, makeup, and boys. I stayed quiet, because I belonged to a completely different world. And honestly, I had gotten used to being alone. That evening, I came back from work very late. My stomach hurt from hunger, and the only thing waiting for me in my room was a packet of cheap oatmeal. My roommate was painting her nails while talking on the phone. Yeah, there's a store a couple blocks away. After 10 at night, they discount all the food. You can buy stuff for almost nothing. I froze. What store? I asked softly, but she just laughed into the phone and waved her hand carelessly. Somewhere down that street. That was it. Outside, it was already getting dark. Cold wind slipped through my old jacket, but hunger was stronger than exhaustion. I walked through unfamiliar streets, staring at store signs. The city looked completely different at night. Cold, distant, uncaring. The streetlights glowed dimly. Cars rushed past me. People hurried home. And I just wanted to find something cheap to eat. At some point, I took a wrong turn. Then another. I realized I was lost. My phone was almost dead, and I had run out of data because I even tried to save money on my phone plan. I started walking faster, and suddenly, my foot caught on the uneven edge of the sidewalk. I lost my balance and fell hard onto the cold pavement. Pain shot through my knee. Ow, I whispered through clenched teeth. My hands trembled from the cold as I pushed myself back up. And that's when I saw it. A black leather wallet lying right beside the curb. I looked around. The street was empty. No one. Carefully, I picked it up. It was heavy. Very heavy. Inside was money. A lot of money. So much that my throat instantly went dry. Several bank cards. Documents. Business cards. I stared at the cash and felt my heart begin to pound. With that money, I could survive for months, pay for school, buy decent clothes, food. Maybe for the first time in my life, I wouldn't have to count every single dollar. I tightened my grip on the wallet, and suddenly I remembered Mrs. Grace from the orphanage. She used to tell me, "Taylor, poverty isn't when you have no money. Poverty is when you lose your conscience." I closed my eyes, then quietly exhaled. No, this isn't mine. I opened one of the business cards. Alex Carter. Below it was a phone number. I stared at it for a long moment before pressing call. My heart was beating like I was about to do something terrifying. After a few rings, a male voice answered sharply. "Hello." His voice sounded tense, nervous. Good evening," I said quietly. I think I found your wallet." Silence. "What?" His voice changed instantly. "Are you serious?" "Yes." "Were the documents inside? The cards?" "Yes, everything's still here." He let out a long breath. God, I thought I lost it forever. I stayed silent. "Where are you right now? I can come immediately." I looked around at the dark street and pulled my oversized sleeve tighter around my hand. "It's late already," I said softly, "and I'm far from downtown. Then tomorrow, please." His voice was beautiful, calm, but underneath it, I could hear genuine gratitude. And strangely enough, that made me cautious, because people usually aren't kind for no reason. "Okay," I answered carefully. "After my classes." "Deal. I'll work around your schedule. What's your name?" I hesitated for a second. "Taylor." "Taylor." He repeated my name so gently, like he was afraid to break it. "Thank you. Really." I ended the call quickly. Not because I wanted to be rude. I just didn't know how to respond to kindness. That night I barely slept. The wallet sat on the desk beside my bed while I stared at the ceiling, thinking about the strange guy with the beautiful voice. I had no idea that the next day would change my entire life, and that for the first time someone would look at me not like a poor orphan girl in old clothes, but like a girl impossible to forget. I kept staring at the clock, turning from side to side, not even understanding why I was so nervous about a simple meeting. He was just a guy whose wallet I had returned. Nothing special. And yet my heart wouldn't stop racing. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The room was cold, rain tapped softly against the window, and I sat on the edge of my bed staring at my clothes for a long time. I barely had any choices. Worn-out jeans, an old sweater, and the only decent-looking gray jacket I owned. I sighed quietly. My roommate was putting on mascara in front of the mirror when I nervously asked, "Hey, can I maybe borrow a little makeup?" She looked at me in surprise. "You? Wearing makeup?" I smiled awkwardly. "I just have a meeting." She smirked and slid her makeup bag toward me. "Go ahead." Very carefully, I put on a little mascara and some pink lip gloss. For most girls, those things were nothing. But for me, I couldn't remember the last time I had tried to look pretty for someone. When I looked in the mirror, for a second I didn't see the exhausted girl with permanent sadness in her eyes. I just saw a girl, and somehow that scared me a little. At the agreed time, I stood near the college gates, tightly holding the strap of my old bag. Students rushed around me laughing and talking, while I nervously glanced at every car passing by. Then suddenly, I heard a male voice behind me. "Are you Taylor?" I turned around quickly and froze. Standing in front of me was a tall, incredibly handsome man. Broad shoulders, confident posture, probably 5 years older than me. Dark hair, light-colored shirt, an expensive watch, and the warmest smile I had ever seen. He looked at me so calmly and attentively that I suddenly became painfully aware of my old clothes. "Yes, that's me," I said softly. His smile widened. "Finally, we meet. Thank you for returning my wallet." His voice sounded even nicer in person than it had over the phone. I handed him the wallet. Alex opened it and quickly checked inside. All the money was there. The cards too. He even let out a quiet breath of surprise. "This is unbelievable, honestly. I had already said goodbye to both the money and the cards." I lowered my eyes awkwardly. "They belong to you." He looked at me carefully. I'm Alex, by the way. I smiled faintly. I already know. He laughed, and something about that laugh made warmth spread through my chest. And you are? Taylor. Beautiful name, he said softly. I looked away immediately because I didn't know how to react to words like that. How can I thank you? Alex suddenly asked. Seriously, you have no idea how many problems these cards would have caused me if they were gone. You don't have to do anything, I said quickly. Really? But he shook his head. Then at least let me buy you lunch. You really don't need to. Please. He said it so sincerely that I got flustered. And agreed. When we walked toward his car, I almost stopped in place. The expensive black car gleamed under the rain like something straight out of a commercial. I had never even sat in a car like that before. Alex opened the door for me, and I carefully sat inside, terrified I might accidentally ruin something. The car smelled like expensive cologne and leather. And suddenly I became painfully aware of the scent of cheap laundry detergent on my old sweater. I felt embarrassed. Very embarrassed. But Alex acted so naturally, as if he didn't notice my old clothes or how nervous I was. We drove to a beautiful restaurant downtown, and when the waiter led us to a table near a giant panoramic window, I almost stopped breathing. I worked in a restaurant. I washed dishes there, but I had never sat on this side of the table. The waiter smiled politely while recommending the finest dishes on the menu, meals whose names I could barely pronounce. I stared nervously at the prices that looked almost as high as my weekly paycheck. Alex noticed immediately. Order anything you want, he said gently. And don't worry about it. I nodded quietly. When the food arrived, I honestly didn't even know where to begin. Everything looked too beautiful to touch. Alex watched me with a soft smile. Not mocking. Warm. Tender. And somehow sitting beside him for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel like hiding from the world. We talked for hours. About school. About life. About work. I didn't even realize when I started smiling. Alex told me there had been a huge amount of money inside the wallet along with important bank cards. You have no idea how rare it is for someone to return something like that, he said quietly. Especially with all the money still inside. I shrugged softly. I just wasn't raised that way. He looked at me very carefully, like he saw something much bigger than just a poor college girl in old clothes. You're incredible, Taylor, Alex said softly, and in that moment my heart skipped a beat, because no one had ever looked at me that way before. After that lunch with Alex, my life somehow started to feel a little warmer. No, nothing really changed on the outside. I still woke up early in my cold dorm room. I still rushed to classes during the day and spent my evenings standing beside giant sinks in the restaurant kitchen, washing endless piles of dirty dishes. My hands still hurt from the hot water. I still never had enough money. But now there was something new in my days. Alex. He started calling me almost every day. And every time his name lit up on my screen, my heart began racing. But I often didn't answer. Not because I didn't want to hear his voice. Quite the opposite. I was scared. Scared that he would find out the truth about me. That the girl he had lunch with in that expensive restaurant actually spent her evenings on the other side of the kitchen in a wet apron, washing other people's dirty plates. I kept thinking that men like Alex could never really be with girls like me. Rich people belonged with rich people. Beautiful people belonged with beautiful people. Successful people belonged with successful people, and girls like me just survived. I was sure that once he realized how poor I really was, he would stop calling. And honestly, maybe that would even hurt less. One evening, I could barely stand from exhaustion. The restaurant had hosted some huge event, and there were so many dishes that I felt like I would never finish washing them all. When I finally stepped outside, it was already dark. Cold wind hit my face immediately, and my hands still smelled like dish soap. I walked slowly down the street, dreaming only about a hot shower and sleep. Then suddenly my phone rang. Alex. I closed my tired eyes for a second, then answered anyway. Hey, Taylor. His warm voice said softly. I didn't wake you, did I? I laughed quietly. No, I'm not home yet. Where are you now? I froze for a second, then suddenly thought, what difference does it make anymore? Sooner or later, he would find out anyway. Near work. You work late. I smiled bitterly. I don't really have much of a choice. Silence filled the line for a moment. Do you want me to pick you up? I almost said no, but I was too exhausted to argue. Okay, send me the address. He arrived very quickly. When I saw the familiar black car parked by the sidewalk, anxiety tightened in my chest. I climbed into the car with my eyes lowered. I felt embarrassed about my cheap clothes, my exhaustion, the smell of the restaurant kitchen that seemed permanently soaked into my skin. But Alex looked at me so warmly, like I was the most beautiful girl in the world. Are you hungry? He asked softly. I smiled nervously. I've stared at food all day. I think I physically can't look at another plate. He laughed. Then at least coffee. There's a small cafe nearby. I agreed. The cafe was tiny and cozy. Warm golden lights, the smell of cinnamon and coffee, soft music playing quietly in the background. We sat near the window. For a long time I stayed silent, staring down into my cup. Then finally I spoke quietly. Alex, there's something you should know. He looked at me carefully. I took a deep breath. I'm very poor. He didn't say anything. And somehow that scared me even more. I'm an orphan. I live in a dorm. I work as a dishwasher in a restaurant. Sometimes I can barely afford decent food. My voice trembled. That day we had lunch together. It was the first time in my life I had ever sat in a restaurant like that. I gave a bitter little smile. I just thought you should know, so you won't be disappointed later. I waited for his expression to change, for his eyes to turn colder, for him to politely say goodbye and never call me again. But instead, Alex quietly asked, Is that why you've been avoiding my calls? I looked at him in surprise. There was no pity in his eyes, no judgment, only warmth, real warmth. Taylor, he smiled softly. Did you seriously think I'd be turned away by the fact that you work honestly for a living? I stayed silent, and he continued, Do you know how many wealthy people I've met? And how few of them are actually good people? Something suddenly tightened painfully in my chest. But you're different, Alex said quietly. You're kind, real, and unbelievably strong. I felt my eyes begin to burn with tears. No one had ever said words like that to me before. That night I told him everything. About the orphanage, the loneliness, my fears, the nights I cried myself to sleep because life felt too heavy. And Alex listened so carefully, like every single word mattered. By the time he drove me back to my dorm, the rain had stopped. We sat in silence for a few seconds inside the car. Then Alex suddenly smiled, a little nervously. Taylor, can I take you on a real first date? I froze. My heart started beating so hard I thought he might actually hear it. A real one. I whispered. He nodded. Yeah, not as a thank you for the wallet, but because I really like you. And in that moment, for the first time in a very long time, I stopped feeling like a poor orphan girl and started feeling like a girl someone genuinely wanted beside him. Our first real date wasn't at an expensive restaurant. And honestly, that's exactly why it became the most beautiful memory of my life. Alex texted me that evening. Dress warm. I want to show you a place. When we arrived, I looked in surprise at a tiny Italian pizzeria tucked away on a quiet, narrow street. Warm golden lights glowed above the entrance, and through the windows I could see people laughing and eating while soft music played in the background. Inside, it smelled like fresh bread, melted cheese, coffee, and something deeply comforting. Cozy. Alive. We sat near the window. I nervously adjusted the sleeves of my sweater, while Alex looked at me so warmly that I forgot how to breathe again. You look like I just brought you into a palace. He laughed softly. For me, this almost is one, I admitted quietly. Alex suddenly became serious. Taylor, it hurts me to know you've had to live such a hard life. I smiled faintly. And being with you is the first time life hasn't felt scary. For a moment, silence settled gently between us. Only the music played softly while snow began falling outside the window. That night we talked for hours. Alex told me about himself, about joining his father's construction company after college, about managing several construction projects now, about staying awake at night worrying about responsibilities, deadlines, and the people depending on him. And as I listened, I realized something. Behind the expensive cars and perfect clothes wasn't some arrogant rich man. There was just a kind, exhausted person who wanted warmth as much as I did. When the pizza arrived, I laughed quietly. "What?" Alex smiled. "I've never had real Italian pizza before." The way he looked at me made my cheeks turn red again. "Then tonight is another first for you." And somehow with him, all my first times stopped feeling scary. When we left the pizzeria, the city glowed with evening lights. It was freezing outside. I shivered, and Alex immediately placed his coat over my shoulders. "What about you?" I asked softly. "I won't freeze." We walked slowly through the night streets. Then suddenly Alex stopped. He looked at me so carefully, like I was something fragile and priceless at the same time. "Taylor." The way he said my name made everything inside me tremble. "Can I kiss you?" No one had ever asked me something so gently before. I gave the smallest nod, and then Alex softly touched my cheek and kissed me. The world disappeared. No cars, no people, no cold air. There was only his warmth, his hands, and my heart feeling wanted for the very first time. I remembered that kiss forever, because in that moment I realized something. I was in love. After that night, we were almost never apart. Alex picked me up after classes. We walked through the city together, drank cheap coffee in tiny cafes, laughed, watched old movies, and talked until late at night. And a month later, he rented a small cozy apartment for us on the top floor of an old building. It had giant windows, creaky wooden floors, and access to the rooftop. At night, we would bring blankets and hot coffee up to the roof and sit under the stars together. I would rest my head on his shoulder and still struggle to believe any of it was real. Sometimes Alex would quietly kiss my hair, and I would think, is this what happiness feels like? I stopped washing dishes at the restaurant, and the first time I officially quit, I cried on the bus ride home. Not because of the job, but because for the first time in my life, someone had told me, "Taylor, you're not alone anymore." Alex's parents welcomed me warmly. I was terrified before meeting them. I thought they would only see a poor orphan girl. But his mother hugged me so sincerely, like she had known me forever. And I almost cried right there at the dinner table. A year later, after I graduated college, we got married. That morning, I stood in front of the mirror in my wedding dress and barely recognized myself. Once I had nothing, and now I had a home, a job as an accountant in Alex's company, someone who loved me, and a family. When Alex saw me standing beneath the wedding arch, there were tears in his eyes. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me," he whispered. And I smiled through tears, because I felt exactly the same way. And now years later, I think about something often. People spend too much time talking about status, money, expensive clothes, about who is good enough for someone else. But love never asks how much money you have in your bank account. Love doesn't care where you came from. It doesn't count the brands on your clothes. It doesn't ask whether you're rich or poor. When someone truly loves you, they simply take your hand and stay. Even when you're broken, even when you're scared, even when you don't believe you deserve love yourself. Once I thought rich people lived in an entirely different world. But Alex taught me something far more important. A person's true value is never in their money. It's in their heart. And if someone asked me now what love really is, my answer would be simple. Love is finding the one person who makes life stop feeling frightening after all the dark nights you survived alone.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss new stories. And also write in the comments how you liked this story on a scale of 1 to 5. Watch the following video and enjoy watching.